Hi, I'm Jonathan M0JSX, and today I'm going to show you a really quick modification that I've done to my DXCommander Expedition, which you can see the build video of up there over on Callum's channel. But essentially, last time I put my Expedition up, on one of the elements, the little loop, the sort of quick loop, pulled out and therefore was no longer being held up against the pole using the bit of tension cord. So I'm going to show you what I did, and essentially it just involves using a cable tie. But here we go, look down at the desk. I've got a piece of DX10. We're going to imagine that this is our element. Maybe we've got a fault connector down here and it's running up the pole. Doesn't matter. We've also got a bit of shock cord as well, a tiny bit of glue-lined heat shrink, a little cable tie. Now, the ones I've actually used on the Expedition that I've got are sort of white in colour, or maybe as close to clear as you can get, but I haven't got very many of those, so I don't want to waste one for this little demonstration, so instead I'm using a little blue one. Colour, not important. Perhaps black would be the best. So a bit of heat shrink I did, and some cutters, and of course heat gun for the bit of heat shrink. So here's what we're going to need to do. So as per the instruction manual, we are going to slide on the piece of heat shrink. We're then going to create our loop. So all we do is we literally just fold the antenna back on itself. We create our loop, and then we stuff it into the glue-lined heat shrink, and we create our little loop. You can see that there. We want the loop to be big enough that it's not going to want it big enough that we can fit the shock cord through, but not so big that when we're pulling it through, the knot at the end of our piece of shock cord, which I've already put in, the little stopper knot, doesn't come through either. So that is about the right size. So now it's just a case of heating it up, as we're pretty used to doing at this point. So I've got my trusty heat gun. You could possibly use a hairdryer. I know that Callum tends to use a little blowtorch. You could use a lighter, to be honest. I like a heat gun just because I've got one and it does a really good job. This one is somewhere, depending on which setting, either 300 or 500 degrees. So let's just turn it on. So there we are. That's the heat shrink melted, and the glue's nice and melted too. In fact, you know what? I'm going to heat it up a little bit more just because the glue is starting to cool on me. And what I want to do is get the cable tie around the heat shrink while the glue is still hot. Okay, that ought to be good. So I'm going to get that. Don't necessarily need to be too quick. It will stay hot enough for a little while, but always good if you can operate a bit quickly and get that clamped down on the heat shrink while it's hot. Try and do this so you can see. So there we are. So really giving that a good old pull, and you can see possibly that it is depressing the heat shrink just enough, just to give it a little bit of extra. I got one extra click out of that. There we go. Right. So it's not crushing anything, but it is adding a tiny bit of extra tension to the loops. Right. So I can then just cut off the excess of the cable tie. So there we are. That is the mod essentially. And then, as I said, would pop that through. And just to test it, I'm really going to give that a pull, and that is not coming out at all, which is what we want. Now, I think the only reason that my loops on my DXCommander failed is because when I'm storing it, I'm tending to be storing it up here in the loft, which is in the winter it gets pretty cold, and I think the glue may have just got a bit brittle. I did think initially that just sort of heating the heat shrink again and really pressing it into the wire would have been enough. I don't think it would have done. I think that the the only thing that's now sort of making sure that it's not failing is the use of the little cable tie. So there we have it. Really quick mod that if you've already made your DXCommander Expedition, all you need to do is just heat up the glue and whack a cable tie on. If you're making your Expedition for the first time, then I suggest that as a little modification. I mean, you can get a pack of those little cable ties for peanuts, really, on the likes of eBay or Amazon. Doesn't necessarily need to be anything special. I would suggest going for probably a black colour just so it blends in. I say the ones on my actual Expedition are white, but hey, there you go, it doesn't matter. A nice quick modification for your DXCommander 2024 spec Expedition pole, which will prevent the loops pulling out when you're deploying it, because there is a bit of tension on those wires, so always worth doing that, I think. So we have it, quick video today. Thanks very much for watching if you have done. If you haven't done so already, please do click on that subscribe button. It really does help me out. There's another video coming up over here that the algorithm thinks that you might like next. Until next time, 73, bye-bye.